Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Wednesday, January 11th, and I'm Ryan Aselta. It is great to have you with us this afternoon. We're going to get to the NBA with Ben Golliver in just a bit. We'll talk about James Harden's big night last night in the NBA, plus a little bit on Derrick Rose. But we start in the NFL. 4:35 Eastern on Saturday. That's when the divisional round of the NFL playoffs gets underway. And it all begins in Atlanta, where the Falcons will host the Seahawks. Falcons wideout Mohamed Sanu was kind enough to take a few minutes away from his prep work for the big game, and he joins us now. And Mohamed, thanks for being with us. How has this week gone so far for you and the Falcons as you get ready for the Seahawks?
I mean, it's going great. We had a great week of preparation so far. We just, getting on the little details, trying to make sure everybody's on their P's and Q's for this big game this weekend.
As the Seahawks team you faced back in Week 6, a 26-24 loss in Seattle. When you think back to that week, what did you learn from that loss, and how much does it motivate you guys heading into this weekend?
We learned a lot of things about that loss, type of team we were, the way we fought back and everything like that. But, we just know that this is, another game that we have to prepare, better than we did previous weeks and just continue to grow and get better. They're a great team, great defense, and, we got to work cut out, and we know what we need to do, to accomplish our goal.
Now, that game ended with what appeared to be a missed pass interference call on Richard Sherman, who was covering Julio Jones. Now, Julio had 139 yards receiving and a touchdown in that game. Is the Jones-Sherman matchup one you think your team can exploit in this weekend's game?
I mean, we know what we want to go attack, and I feel like we're going to go and take advantage of what, we like. And, we have a lot of talented players on our team, other than Julio. Julio's going to do what Julio does. And, we got guys like Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman, and Taylor Gabriel and myself. So, we got a lot of guys that are going to make plays. So just going to go out there and just be us and let Matt, do what he does.
You mentioned a couple guys. Let's talk about those running backs. Your team is top 5 in total offense, and we know you guys like to throw the ball, but your running backs have been a great story this year. Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman have kind of shared the load more and more down the stretch here. How much has their unselfishness helped this Falcons offense?
I mean, they feed off each other very well. They complement each other very well. So, for them to be the way they are with each other and to, make those sacrifices for the team, that's what we're all about, the brotherhood. We're going to do our job so the guys next to us to do their job. So, we try to just do what we can do when our, numbers call, when we have our opportunity and make plays.
Mohamed, curious to get your take on this. Your team obviously is the 2 seed in the NFC, but when it comes to Super Bowl picks coming out of the NFC, you hear a lot about the Cowboys right now. The Packers are a hot team. Falcons haven't been a real popular pick. Do you guys feel a little bit underrated and even a little bit disrespected at times?
I mean, I don't think we're really worried about that. We're just worried about what we have going on in this building. Camaraderie and the focus that we have on ourselves, and we're just going to let our play, speak for itself.
All right, let's talk a little bit what goes on in that building. You spent your first 4 years of your career with the Bengals, where you went to the playoffs every year. Now you're in the playoffs with this Atlanta team. Culture-wise, in the locker room, what's the biggest difference between Atlanta and Cincinnati?
I mean, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. I mean, every place is different, but I know, here, guys are, a lot. I feel like they're a lot, tied into, doing the little things, and we are all trying to, uphold the standard. We always trying to, make sacrifice for each other and uphold that standard, knowing that, I'm going to do my job, knowing that, Jake Matthews going to do his job or Matt Ryan's going to do his job. So we just try to keep our, composure in times and just go out there and make plays.
Let's talk a little bit about your quarterback, Matt Ryan. He's had such a monster season, just under 5,000 yards passing, 38 TD passes. A lot of talk of MVP. Tell me, Mohamed, why should your quarterback be the NFL's MVP this year?
I mean, you see the numbers that he's put up and the things he's done this year. I mean, I feel like they speak for itself. He's played phenomenal, and he's led our team to where we are right now.
All right, now we know you have a great receiving core in Atlanta, but we may have found a future Falcon wideout on your Twitter feed, Mohamed. Your son, Mohamed Jr., showing some serious skills. What do you think? Is he an NFL Pro Bowler in the making?
Sure, we'll have to see in a couple years. That kid is something else, man. He's probably the most athletic kid I've seen in a long time. I mean, he does stuff that is really remarkable to me, amazes me. I mean, he just started picking up the football and just started saying hike. I mean, I never tell him hike or anything like that. I guess because he watches a lot of football at the house, whether it's with me or with his mom. So it's just it's crazy. I mean, he'll sit there with my fiance and just be like watching football and get mad at her when she changes the channel. So it's something that he just loves to watch.
Well, the video said he's ready for Saturday. I know you're ready for Saturday. Falcons take on the Seahawks, 4:35 Eastern in the NFC Divisional Round. Mohamed Sanu, thanks for being with us, and good luck this weekend.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Well, the college football season, of course, came to an end on Monday night. And for players across the country, the countdown to the NFL draft now begins. And one of the most intriguing and passionately debated players will be Oklahoma running back Joe Mixon. Maggie Gray recently caught up with MMQB contributor Andrew Brandt about the draft prospect of Mixon on the heels of the video that was released showing the running back striking a female student.
Andrew, we know that teams will do their due diligence when evaluating Joe Mixon leading up to the draft. How can teams properly investigate the running back as a person?
Well, Joe Mixon becomes our guy for 2017, like Johnny Manziel, like others in the past, where there's going to be an interrogation. Everyone's going to ask the same questions about his incident. You know, Maggie, it only takes one team, and to look past that, I'm sure he'll be off draft boards because of the incident that's been displayed so publicly on video. But other teams will say second chance, we'll hear the rationalizations, etc. He's a talent, you know my saying, greater talent, greater tolerance. We'll see what happens. And yeah, they'll look into everything they can, background, talk to teammates, talk to strength coaches, talk to coaches, talk to high school people, talk to people involved in the incident if they can. Talk to police, talk to the police who made the report. So all those things will go into the factor. I do think he'll be drafted. I think he'll be drafted in the first 3 rounds. And why? Because I think, again, talent over tolerance. Everything will be in the guise of second chances, even though he's probably had a lot more than 2 chances.
Okay, so you believe he'll be drafted within the first 3 rounds. Do you feel like a team has to take the temperature of the fan base before they make a decision like that to see how he could be received in a certain market?
You know, we've seen different aspects of that in the NFL. Ray Rice, of course, has not latched on since the video 3 years ago, 2 years ago. But, you know, we've seen Ray McDonald get signed by the Bears, and, of course, Greg Hardy by the Cowboys, and Frank Clark coming out of school by the Seahawks, who had an incident in college as well as other players. I just think what's going to be said, even though the video is going to be shown, teams have to know that and they have to prepare their market for that. But second chances, redeemed himself, Bob Stoops speaking for him, all these things will go into the factor. And of course, you know my saying, if this kid had no talent, we wouldn't be talking about him and there wouldn't be an issue. But he's got talent, and the talent's going to get him drafted, in my opinion.
Okay, how is the league going to handle this? Is he going to start his career with strikes against him, or do you think the slate will be wiped clean?
You know, I mentioned Frank Clark came into the Seahawks, their first pick. He was second round, but he was their first pick a couple years ago. He had a dramatic, really disturbing incident while he was at Michigan in Ohio before he became draft eligible. And the league, I talked to the league about that. I said, could you impose discipline? They said, we cannot, but it will be a factor in future discipline. But you're not going to come in with a punishment. That's my strong feeling based on talking to the league in incidents like this years past.
Andrew, what are some of the teams that you think could take a chance on drafting Joe Mixon?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, you have to look at teams that allow for a little more character issues than others. The Eagles took a couple guys this year with some problems in the past. The Cowboys have been known to be looser about that. The Chiefs, with Marcus Peters and Tyreek Hill, have known to be looser about some issues in the past. You know, I think it's about half and half. I think half the teams will probably have them off, and half the teams will have him on the board. Some will downgrade him because of it, but it's good. Yeah, I would guesstimate about half and half in terms of who would take him and who wouldn't.
Andrew, in the end, is there any real difference between a team that drafts Mixon or someone who signs him as a undrafted free agent?
No, no. I mean, it's the same issue. You're just paying him more money, which is a little bit more risk if he screws up again. But I think the point has to be made here. The NFL is doing everything it can on the domestic violence front. They've got these stepped up policies that we keep hearing about. But they are not, have not, and in my opinion, will not go down the rabbit hole of telling teams not to draft certain players, of telling teams what to do in personnel. So the league can do all the policies it wants, and the league can hire all these domestic violence experts, but it's up to the teams, and the teams are going to do what's best for them. That's that league team dynamic we always talk about.
Very interesting. Great to get an insider's perspective, as only Andrew Brandt can. Andrew, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
You got it, Maggie.
All right, let's switch gears to the NBA now, where last night James Harden did it again. The Rockets guard records his second straight 40-point triple-double in a win over the Hornets. SI NBA writer Ben Golliver joins me now. And Ben, let's start with Harden. Along with the stats, the Rockets playing some good basketball right now, 31-9 on the season. What's been the key to Harden and Houston's success this season?
Well, addition by subtraction of Dwight Howard, you'd start there, and then addition by addition of signing Mike D'Antoni. I mean, you really found the perfect philosophical fit for a guy like James Harden. The NBA has taken a real turn this season. Offense is way up. Everybody is shooting the three even more than they were previously. And the smartest teams have realized if you've got good one-on-one players like James Harden, you want to create as much space as possible for those guys. I think, taking Dwight Howard out of that picture, allowing it just to be the James Harden show was a very smart decision, and he's proving that.
Yeah, almost halfway through the season, the All-Star break coming up in a few weeks. Right now, is James Harden the league's MVP?
Well, I had Russell Westbrook at the one-quarter mark, and I think since I wrote that column, the Rockets haven't lost a game. I mean, they've been unbelievable, and Harden's putting up crazy numbers like you mentioned in the intro. Let's not forget that 50-plus points, 15-plus assists, 15-plus rebounds effort he had right before the new year. I mean, it's just been on a different level. And I think ultimately this MVP race is going to come down to three former teammates. I think it's going to be Westbrook. I think it's going to be Harden. And I think it's going to be Kevin Durant in Golden State. And James Harden's case is going to be very compelling because he's going to look back a couple of years ago and say, hey, it's time for a makeup call. Steph Curry beat me in a close race. It's time for me to get one. I think he's going to have a much better record than the Thunder. That's going to really support his case. And then when you're looking head-to-head, at Durant versus Harden, clearly Harden's doing, putting up huge numbers with a lot less help. I mean, I think that's going to be a very compelling argument for a lot of voters. To me, right now, he's the MVP favorite.
The days when those three played together in OKC. Quite the memories. Big story off the court, of course, this week has involved the Knicks and Derrick Rose, who went AWOL on Monday, missing the team's game, only to return Tuesday to practice. Rose said he needed space to deal with a family issue, but never notified the team. The Knicks fined him, but the guard will play tonight against the Sixers. Ben, are you buying this story Rose is selling to the Knicks right now?
I don't want to dig too deep into his personal life or what exactly happened here, but to me, the big picture takeaway was pretty simple. The absence was unexcused and it was inexcusable. There's just no way a guy who's one of the top 25 paid players in the league can just bail on his teammates right before a game. It compromises the game plan. It puts his coach in a very difficult position. It asks guys maybe who weren't expecting to play big minutes to play bigger minutes. And you saw what happened on the court. It was ugly. I mean, Carmelo Anthony ejected. There was another ejection late in that game. They got beat by a pretty bad Pelicans team. And all of a sudden, it really snowballs, and it becomes a situation where this isn't just a Derrick Rose personal issue. This becomes something that completely envelops the team. Now, I did like that he came back to practice very quickly. He seemed apologetic. He didn't really offer a lot of details. But what a nightmare scenario in a season that kind of started off a little bit promising for the Knicks. And here's what I hate about it. This season should be all about Kristaps Porzingis' development for the Knicks. He's had a great season. I'd even put him in that all-star bubble conversation. And unfortunately, we don't get to talk about him because Derrick Rose is off disappearing in the middle of a season.
And of course, we always have the Carmelo Anthony distraction as well. Rose reportedly not seeing eye to eye with Coach Jeff Hornacek, who benched him before his MIA act on Monday. Is there a scenario here where you see the Knicks trying to move Rose before the deadline?
Well, I think it's going to be really tough. I mean, I don't think he's got very much trade value at this point. All of the flaws in his game that have been there for a few years, and they're mostly related to his injury issues that everybody knows about. But offensively, he's a poor shooter. He's really struggled there again this season. In terms of guys who are taking 15 shots a game, he has one of the very lowest percentages from the field. Defensively, he has a lot of trouble defending the point of attack, keeping up with these very talented point guard crop around the league. Here's kind of like the dirty little secret for Phil Jackson is he really needs Derrick Rose because the rest of his roster isn't that great. He's worked a couple years to assemble this group. It's not very talented, especially at the point guard position. So what do you do at that point guard position? I think if you're the Knicks, you probably hang tough until the offseason, try to figure it out then. But certainly this Derrick Rose experiment has not gone the way they thought it would.
All right, let's move on to another team in the East that has their own issues. We're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. Knicks are in Philly tonight. Their top pick, Ben Simmons, was seen doing 5-on-0 drills in practice yesterday. Philly now has won 3 of 4, starting to play a little bit better. How big of a boost would it be for the Sixers to finally get their top pick on the court?
Well, let's underscore that. 3 wins in 4 games. I mean, that's like a month's worth or 2 months worth of victories in a normal Sixers season. So things are really on the up and up. Look, I really want to see Ben Simmons on the court. I was there at Las Vegas Summer League when he was dazzling. Sure, it wasn't a perfect performance. His shooting and lack of confidence in his mid-range shot, it's pretty glaring when you see him for the first time. But he can do a lot of really impressive things with the basketball. Philadelphia's had some injury issues all season long. Joel Embiid has really come along. He's another guy who's in that fringes of the all-star conversation. Any help he can get, especially a talent like Ben Simmons, would be fantastic. I know Philadelphia fans are just counting down anxiously to whenever he gets back on the court. I think they're still waiting for that clarity, though, because it doesn't seem crystal clear about when his return is going to be.
All right, Sixers without Simmons take on the Knicks tonight. Marquee game of the night, Oklahoma City looking to avenge a 34-point loss this evening against the Memphis Grizzlies. Ben Golliver, we know you will be watching. We appreciate you being with us. All right, now to former NBA coach George Karl, whose book Furious George is causing waves around the NBA. He stopped by recently to chat with our Maggie Gray, and in part 2 of Maggie's interview with the former coach, Maggie talked with Karl about the possibility of PEDs playing a bigger role than we may think in the NBA.
Want to go back to the book.
Okay.
You write that you think that PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, are a major problem in the NBA.
Not major.
Are a problem in the NBA. You said it's the problem that no one's really talking about.
I think it could. I feel that it kind of maybe exists a little bit. And
do you think you ever coach players who are using PEDs?
I have no idea. I have no evidence other than the sociological study of athletes and making money, and what's happened in Europe and what's happened in Russia and what's happened with the cycling industry. There's all types of things, and I know a little bit about HGH, and I know a little bit about steroids because of my cancer treatments that I've gone through. And, if I didn't have cancer, I'd probably be on HGH, to be honest with you. I'm not saying that players should be allowed to be on HGH, but there is a benefit to being, there's certain things out there that does stimulate your body in a positive way.
It's interesting, especially, when you say that you don't have really any proof. It is something, though, that you write about in the book, and one moment where you say specifically about players who go to Germany, and you make a joke that you say, I don't think they're going there for the sauerkraut. But there are the players who have acknowledged that they've gone to Germany, like Kobe Bryant and Andre Iguodala and more. Is there an implication that they are cheating when you write that?
Idea. I have no idea. It's my conspiracy mentality of, it's $1 million business. Players know how valuable it is to continue their career. If they can take a 5-year career to a 10-year career, it's a positive thing.
One topic that's really conspicuously absent from the book is your time in Sacramento. And I know you said that it was so near to you that perhaps you didn't have the perspective that you wanted to talk about it. But I can ask you this question that you'll be able to answer. Should the Kings trade DeMarcus Cousins before the deadline?
I have no. I think DeMarcus is having a great year. My year in Sacramento had a lot of mistakes on my part, but what I know about Sacramento, it wants a winner badly. The Kings, the organization, and the fans are stuck in a bad place, and I just hope the best for them. As I said, DeMarcus is probably the most skilled, talented basketball player, big man in the NBA. Now, how do you figure that out? That's what they have to decide.
One other player that you write about, and it seems like there is some serious animosities between you and Ray Allen, another former player that you coach, but you never really get into what about you and Ray never clicked.
That's not true. I think Ray and I clicked early in our time together. And then I don't know how many years I coached Ray, probably 4 or 5, maybe 6. And, towards the end, we had a tug of war a little bit. Ray was one of the few players, probably only one of the few players, I think, went on to have a hell of a career after he left me, after we traded him. And he went on to be a Hall of Famer, went on to be a champion, and I have a lot of respect for that.
He said that he's one of the few players who have left you and gotten better.
Well,
what does that mean for Carmelo Anthony?
I'm not saying. I'm saying. I mean, Ray was a good player for me and became a special player. Carmelo was a special player with me and is still a special player. So there's a difference in how you interpret what I said.
With some of those players where there is animosity, do you want to bury the hatchet with them? I mean, this book is not going to be received by some of them. It's not going to be received well, or hasn't been in the case of Kenyon Martin. But do you want to get to a place where you've reconciled with them? You talk about the new you and wanting to kind of evolve. Would you like to have a conversation with a Ray Allen?
I mean, again, I think most of our conversations are 20 years old, 10-year-old stories that we both have moved on, and we both have had good things. Most of them have had good situations, become even a little bit better. Yeah, I have no problem having them, but I think I'm also at a stage in my life that my life is slowing down and not being in the hectic world of the NBA. The NBA world is exploding, it's growing, it's progressing into this unbelievable, successful, sport. And for me, if I don't get back into coaching, I'm fading into retirement or trying to find another adventure, maybe not as stressful as coaching in the NBA.
I can understand that. You had battles with almost every owner that you ever played for, but who's the best owner in the NBA? Who'd you like to coach for?
Everybody, I think, coaches like the model of San Antonio and how Greg Popovich has done an incredible job there, and R.C. Buford has done a great job, and it seems like the ownership is incredibly supportive and influential. I think the ownership is changing. We're having more owners that want to be involved, want to be a part of the process on maybe not a daily basis, but at least a weekly basis. A lot of my owners, in Seattle, Barry Ackley and I saw each other maybe 3 times a year. And, and Senator Cole was a very good owner in Milwaukee. I think Stan Kroenke and the Kroenke family is a great ownership in Denver. So,
but looking back on it now and as you were writing this book, did you feel like maybe you left any wins on the table or maybe even a championship because you were inflexible?
I think probably the answer to that is, if I'm sitting with my assistant coaches of maybe when we were in Seattle and lost in the first round a couple times when we shouldn't, that, we could argue, yeah. I mean, coaching playoff basketball is a tremendous challenge, and you got to be really good to win a 7-game series. You got to have a really good team and your coaching staff, and everybody's got to have a really good frame of mind. And, I've had a lot more success in the regular season than I have in playoffs. And if the shot is, I left someone on the table, I can take that.
George Karl, congratulations on the book, Furious George. It certainly lives up to the title. It's a great read, I'll tell you that. You're very honest in this book. Appreciate your time and wish you the best of luck moving forward. Glad to see that you're here and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pretty interesting. Karl won close to 1,200 games during the regular season. That's a win percentage of 58%. His playoff record was 80-105. Thanks to Maggie and Coach Karl. And that's going to do it for this Wednesday episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, stick with SI.com and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great afternoon.